Today we're looking at month number 3 of the Golden Age of comic books. These are all the comics with a cover date of August 1938. This ties in with Action Comics number 3 being out this month, the third appearance of Superman. And looking at the 22 comics with a cover date of August 1938 this week, we're going to analyze the rarity and the price guide values of these as collectibles. Well, by far, Action Comics number 3 is the most valuable comic. Way more valuable, in fact. You can see the good condition, a low-grade 2.0 copy guides for $6,600, which is more than 50% of buying an entire run of all 22 comics out that month. And a hefty $120,000 price tag for a near mint 9.2 copy. On the CGC census, Action Comics number 3 is also the most common, easily graded comic. And again, this is due to the high price tag has helped bring more copies out on the market as there's more money to be made. After that, Detective Comics number 18, another key issue with Fu Manchu. There's 26 copies graded, which is quite a few, and also a hefty price tag, $1,650 for a low-grade copy. These are the only 2 expensive comics from this month, and they both happen to be early DC comics. If we look through the list and look for other things that jump out, Amazing Mystery Funnies from Centaur was a new series, a number 1 issue. There's 7 copies graded and $432. Also standing out on the list, we've got the final issue of Cowboy Comics, number 14 is out. We've got Feature Book featuring Red Eagle as the star of this particular issue in number 16. And I notice it's got the lowest price of any comic this month, only $32 to buy a low-grade copy of that book. Little Giant Movie Funnies debuts as a new series from Centaur, issue number 1, only 2 copies graded and a $200 price tag for a low-grade copy. So 22 comics released this month, and in total we see that 138 copies have been graded. This is all conditions and includes restored copies as well. That's very few. We do not know the print runs of all these comics, but if we just use an estimate of 200,000 copies printed of each book times 22 issues, that is 4.4 million comics released that particular month. So out of 4.4 million comics, only 138 copies have been graded, and only 11 of them have survived in high grade and been graded by CGC. And to top that off, the only books that have multiple copies on the CGC census in high grade are Crackerjack Funnies and Mickey Mouse Magazine. These usually have higher numbers on the census than average, and that is due to potential file copies from the publisher themselves that have survived in high grade. Other than that, Action Comics number 3 has 2 copies, and there's a few others that just have a lone copy. Otherwise, the majority of these comics do not have a single high-grade copy graded. And just to show you how rare some of these books are and how undervalued and overlooked they are, there are 3 books on this list that do not even have a single copy graded in any condition, universal or restored, including Feature Funnies, number 11, The Funnies, number 23, and Little Giant Comics, number 2. After the DC books, the most graded book is Super Comics number 4. There's 10 copies. Again, likely that there's some file copies of this out there. But still, 10 copies is not a lot of copies for all conditions combined. Looking at the price tag, you can see that almost every comic on this list can be purchased for under $100 in low-grade condition. Of course, as we get into the high-grade copies, we can see the price tags, but realize that a lot of these books cannot even be purchased. So the majority of these do not even have a 9.2 copy graded, and yet there is a price guide value from Overstreet for these books. If you wanted to buy a complete set of all the books out this month in low grade using the guide price, it would cost you just over $10,000 for a low grade set, or $172,000 for a high grade set. At this point, over 400 different comics had been published in the standard modern format, as comics had now been published for 5 years. But this is the third month of what we consider the golden age, again due to the debut of Superman. We'd like to thank you for watching. Check out our series. We're going to continue this month-by-month analysis. It's an interesting look to see how people collect these books and put everything in perspective of what was available, who the publishers were, what issue were we out on, the rarity, and comparable price guide values of these books. Happy hunting if you're collecting these classic books.